The gasoline was already pooling around her boots when Lieutenant Aria Bennett realized she'd miscalculated. The ex-con standing over her, Marcus Kane, 6'4" of violent rage, struck the match with a grin that said he'd done this before. "You federal types think you're so smart. Let's see how smart you burn." Aria's hands were zip-tied behind her back, her tactical shirt torn from the fight, blood running from a gash above her eye. She should have been terrified. Instead, she counted his mistakes. Turned his back to the tree line. Didn't check for backup. Assumed 22 and female meant weak. He had no idea who he'd grabbed. And somewhere in the whiteout blizzard, getting closer with every second, was Rex. 70 pounds of German Shepherd fury who'd tracked her through worse than snow. Before we dive into this story of survival, strength, and the canine partner who refused to let evil win, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Stay with us until the very end. This story will show you that courage has nothing to do with size. And tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below so we can see how far this message of resilience travels. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. 12 hours earlier, Lieutenant Aria Bennett had been sitting in a Navy briefing room, being told she was too young, too inexperienced, and too female to run solo surveillance on the suspected trafficking operation. "With respect, ma'am," the senior officer had said, not sounding respectful at all. "You're 22 years old. You've been a SEAL for less than 2 years. This target is a violent offender with military training. We should send a full team." Aria kept her voice level, professional. "The target, Marcus Kane, has evaded full teams for 6 months. He's smart, paranoid, watches for standard surveillance patterns. He won't expect a young woman alone at a gas station on Christmas Eve." "Exactly. Because it's dangerous. Because it's effective." Aria pulled up Kane's file on the screen. He's been trafficking women along the Colorado freight routes for 3 years, preying on truck stops, rest areas, anywhere vulnerable women might be alone. Using me as bait is the fastest way to draw him out. Her commanding officer, Captain Sarah Rodriguez, studied her carefully. "And your canine partner, Rex?" "Stays within quarter-mile radius, close enough to respond, far enough not to spook Kane." "You're asking to put yourself in extreme danger with backup too far away to help if things go wrong." "I'm asking to do my job, ma'am. The same job any male SEAL would be cleared for without this much debate." That hit home. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Approved. But Aria, the second this feels wrong, you call it. Pride isn't worth your life." "No, ma'am. But stopping a trafficker is." Now, standing in the freezing parking lot of Timber Ridge gas station outside Silver Ridge, Colorado, Aria was starting to think pride might actually be the problem. Not hers. Kane's. She'd been maintaining her cover for 3 hours, playing the part of a stranded traveler whose car had broken down, waiting for a tow truck that wasn't coming because she'd never called one. The station was nearly empty. Just an elderly clerk inside, and 2 truckers who'd left an hour ago. Perfect conditions for Kane to make his move. Aria's earpiece crackled with Rex's handler checking in. "Sierra 1, K9 unit is in position, quarter-mile northwest. Weather's getting bad, visibility near 0. "Copy that," Aria said softly, pretending to be on a phone call. "I'll be fine. Just cold." She wasn't just cold. She was freezing. The olive green tactical shirt she wore, fitted, short-sleeved, designed to look civilian, provided almost no protection against the Colorado mountain winter. Her long, dark brown hair, which she'd left loose instead of in her usual tactical braid, was getting heavy with snow. But discomfort was tactical, made her look more vulnerable, more like an easy target. A black pickup truck pulled into the lot. Arya's pulse quickened, but her breathing stayed controlled. Years of training had taught her that panic was a choice, and she didn't choose it. Marcus Kane stepped out of the truck. 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle earned in prison yards and back alley fights. His file said he'd served 8 years for aggravated assault before being released 6 months ago. Since then, he'd been suspected in the disappearance of 11 women along the I-70 corridor. Suspected, not proven, because he was careful, smart, and violent enough that witnesses rarely testified. He pretended not to notice Arya at first, walking into the station, buying coffee, chatting with the clerk. But Arya saw him watching her reflection in the window, calculating, assessing. She played her part perfectly, shivering, checking her phone with increasing frustration, looking helpless and alone. Kane came out of the station, walked to his truck, then paused. "Car trouble?" Arya turned, making her voice sound relieved, grateful. "Yeah, transmission just died. I called a tow, but they said it might be hours because of the storm." "That's rough. Christmas Eve, too." He moved closer, and Arya cataloged every detail. The way he positioned himself to block her path to the station. The bulge under his coat that suggested a weapon. The way his eyes assessed her body with the cold calculation of a predator choosing prey. "I could give you a ride," he offered. "There's a motel about 10 miles down the road." "That's really kind, but I should probably wait." "For a tow that might not come? In this weather?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I insist. Wouldn't be right leaving a young lady stranded on Christmas Eve." Arya felt her training kick in. Every instinct screaming this was the moment. This was when she should signal Rex, call for backup, end the operation safely. But 11 women were missing. 11 families spending Christmas wondering if their daughters, sisters, mothers were still alive. And Kane would disappear again if she didn't get the evidence they needed. "Okay," she said, making her voice sound uncertain, vulnerable. "Thank you. That's really nice of you." "No problem at all." Kane gestured toward his truck. "Come on, let's get you warm." Arya walked toward the truck, her hand near the small tracking beacon hidden in her belt. All she had to do was activate it, and Rex would come running. But she needed Kane to incriminate himself first. Needed him to reveal where the other women were. Needed evidence that would stand up in court. She reached for the truck door handle. Kane grabbed her from behind. Fast, brutally efficient. His forearm around her throat, cutting off her air, his other hand ripping her phone from her pocket and throwing it into the snow. "I know what you are," he hissed in her ear. "Federal. Been watching you for 20 minutes. Your posture's wrong. Your awareness is wrong. Your whole setup screams law enforcement." Arya didn't panic. She'd trained for this. But before she could execute a chokehold reversal, Kane slammed her face first into the truck, stunning her, then zip-tied her wrists behind her back with practiced speed. "Thought you could trap me?" He dragged her toward the back of the station, where the dumpsters blocked view from the clerk inside. "Thought I was stupid enough to fall for a pretty girl playing damsel?" Arya tasted blood, felt snow against her cheek where he'd thrown her down. She calculated angles, assessed options. The tracking beacon was still in her belt, but she couldn't reach it with her hands tied. "You made a mistake," she said, her voice steady despite the blood in her mouth. Kane laughed, pulling out a container of gasoline from his truck bed. "No, sweetheart. You made the mistake, thinking you could play in the big leagues." He started pouring gasoline around her, soaking her clothes, the snow, creating a circle of accelerant. "I've done this before. Burned 3 federal informants who thought they could testify against me. Fire destroys evidence, you know. Your body will be so charred, they won't be able to tell if the injuries came before or after the flames." Arya's training screamed at her to fight, to use her legs, to do something. But she forced herself to stay still, to let Cain think she was paralyzed with fear. Because fear meant he'd be overconfident, sloppy, and she needed him to make one more mistake. "Where are they?" she asked. "The 11 women you took, where are they?" Cain grinned, pulling out a lighter. "Worried about them? How sweet. Maybe I'll tell you before you burn. Give you something to think about in your last moments. The FBI already knows about your operation," Arya said, stalling. "Arresting me won't stop the investigation. Killing you will slow it down, though. Send a message. And once you're gone, I'll be in Mexico before anyone even finds your body." He crouched down, bringing his face close to hers. "Those women? They're in shipping containers in an old mining operation outside Leadville. Been selling them to buyers across the border for 6 months. Made $500,000. And you know the best part? What? They're all still alive, waiting, hoping someone will rescue them." His smile was pure evil. "And nobody will, because the one person who figured it out is about to be ashes." He lit the match. Arya saw the flames spark to life, saw Cain's hand move to drop it, saw her death coming in fire and pain. She pressed her belt buckle with her hip, the emergency beacon, activating with a pulse she hoped Rex could feel through the storm. "Any last words?" Cain asked, holding the match above the gasoline. "Yeah," Arya said. "You should have checked for backup." Cain laughed. "There is no backup. I've been monitoring police channels. You're alone, girl. Just you and—" The growl came from the darkness beyond the dumpsters. Low, controlled, absolutely lethal. Cain froze, the match still in his hand, unlit gasoline pooling at his feet too. "What was that?" he whispered. Arya smiled despite the blood on her face, despite the gasoline soaking her clothes. "That's Rex, my canine partner, and he doesn't like it when people hurt his handler." The German Shepherd emerged from the blizzard like a ghost made of fury. 70 pounds of muscle, teeth, and absolute loyalty. His tan and black coat was covered in snow. His amber eyes locked on Cain with the focus of a predator who'd found his target. Cain dropped the match in shock. It hit the snow, wet, cold snow that Arya had been counting on. Snow that hadn't absorbed enough gasoline yet to ignite. The match went out, and Rex attacked. Rex hit Cain like a missile with fur, 70 pounds of combat-trained German Shepherd driving him backward into the snow. Cain screamed, trying to protect his throat, but Rex wasn't going for the kill. He was going for control, just like he'd been trained. Jaws clamped on Cain's right arm, the one reaching for the gun under his coat, holding it in a vice grip that made Cain howl with pain. "Get it off! Get it off me!" Arya was already moving. Hands zip-tied behind her back meant nothing. She'd escaped restraints during Hell Week that would have broken most men. She rolled onto her side, brought her knees to her chest, threaded her bound wrists under her feet until they were in front of her body. 2 seconds. She used her teeth to pull at the zip tie, found the locking mechanism, applied pressure with the edge of a rock she grabbed from the snow. The plastic snapped. Her hands were free. Cain was still fighting Rex, trying to throw the dog off, reaching for his weapon with his left hand. Arya kicked it away, sent the gun skittering across ice and snow, then drove her boot into Cain's knee with surgical precision. The joint gave with a crack that echoed off the dumpsters. Cain's scream turned into something animal, desperate. "Rex, halt!" Arya commanded. The German Shepherd released immediately, backing up 3 steps, but staying focused on Cain, ready to attack again at a word. Arya grabbed Cain by his collar, flipped him face down in the snow with a combat move that took advantage of his injury, and put her knee in his back. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder of a federal officer, and human trafficking. You broke my knee. I'll break a lot more if you don't shut up and tell me exactly where those shipping containers are." Arya's voice was cold, controlled. "You said Leadville. Where in Leadville?" Kane spacked blood into the snow. "Go to hell." "Wrong answer." Arya applied pressure to the broken knee. Not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make Kane scream again. 11 women. Where? "I don't know. I just dropped them off. Someone else handles the—" "Don't lie to me. You said you made $500,000. That means you know every detail of the operation. So tell me where they are, or I let Rex finish what he started." Rex growled on cue, teeth visible, absolutely ready. Kane's resistance crumbled. "Old Rockford Mine, 3 miles west of Leadville. Abandoned since the 90s. The containers are in the main shaft, temperature controlled, locked from outside. Code is 7419. Arya's earpiece crackled. "Sierra 1, this is command." We heard the activation beacon. K9 unit reported engagement. Status? "Target in custody," Arya said, using her free hand to secure Kane with proper restraints she pulled from her pocket. "Requesting immediate backup and medical for suspect. Also need tactical team mobilized to Rockford Mine, Leadville. We have 11 hostages confirmed at that location." "Copy that. Teams are rolling. ETA to your position is 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Arya looked at Kane, at the gasoline still soaking into the snow, at how close she'd come to burning alive. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off, but she forced them steady. "Why?" she asked, quietly. "Why did you do this? The trafficking, the murder. Was $500,000 worth destroying so many lives?" Kane laughed bitterly. "You think this is about money? You think I'm in charge?" Arya felt ice that had nothing to do with the weather settle in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm a grunt, a recruiter. The operation is way bigger than you think. Way bigger than me." He turned his head, met her eyes with something that looked almost like pity. "You think catching me stops this? I'm replaceable. There are 5 more guys just like me working the I-70 corridor. And the people running the show?" He laughed again. "They're untouchable." "Nobody's untouchable." "Yeah? Then why hasn't anyone stopped them for 3 years? Why do police reports keep disappearing? Why do investigations keep getting shut down?" Kane's voice turned venomous. "Because the people running this network have badges, sweetheart. They're cops. Feds. People you trust." Arya's mind raced. "You're lying, trying to create reasonable doubt for your trial." "Am I? Then explain how I always know when surveillance is coming. How I always know when to move locations. How I've avoided arrest for 6 months despite being on every watch list in Colorado." He smiled through bloody teeth. "Someone's been protecting me. Someone with access to law enforcement databases. And killing me would be inconvenient for them. But killing you?" He shrugged. "You're just another casualty in a war you don't even know you're fighting." Sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights reflected off the falling snow as multiple vehicles converged on the gas station. Local police, FBI tactical team, ambulances. But Arya's mind was stuck on Kane's words. Someone with access to databases. Someone protecting traffickers. She thought about her own operation tonight, how it had been approved quickly, almost too quickly. How she'd been encouraged to go in alone, minimal backup. Perfect setup for an accident if something went wrong. The first officer who approached was Sheriff Tom Morrison, a man in his 50s with a friendly face and 20 years of local law enforcement experience. "Lieutenant Bennett, you all right?" "I'm fine, Sheriff. The suspect needs medical attention for his knee." Morrison looked at Kane, at the broken joint, at Rex, still standing guard. "Looks like your canine did a number on him." "He tried to burn me alive." Rex intervened appropriately. "I'll bet he did." Morrison crouched beside Kane, checking his restraints. "Marcus Kane, been looking for you for a long time, son. Looks like your luck finally ran out." Something about Morrison's tone made Arya's instincts scream warning. Too familiar, too comfortable. She watched the way he handled Kane. Professional, but with an undercurrent of something else. Recognition? "Sheriff, I need to report time-sensitive intelligence," Arya said carefully. "There are 11 hostages at Rockford Mine outside Leadville. We need to mobilize rescue immediately." "Rockford Mine?" Morrison stood up, pulling out his radio. "I'll call it into Leadville PD. They've got jurisdiction there." "With respect, sir, I think this needs federal response. The trafficking network may be larger than we initially thought." Morrison's hand paused on the radio. "What makes you say that?" The suspect indicated he's not working alone, that there are others involved, possibly in law enforcement. Morrison's expression didn't change, but Arya saw something flicker in his eyes. "That's a serious accusation, Lieutenant." "Based on what evidence?" "Based on his confession, which I recorded." Arya pulled out a small device hidden in her belt. Not the tracking beacon, but a backup recording unit that had been running since she activated it when Kane first grabbed her. Everything he said, including details about the mining operation and his claim that someone in law enforcement has been protecting the network. Kane started laughing from where he lay in the snow. "Oh, this is gonna be fun." "Shut up, Kane," Morrison snapped, then caught himself. "I mean, suspect will be processed according to protocol," but it was too late. Arya had seen the slip, the familiarity, the use of first name instead of surname. "You know each other," she said quietly. Morrison's hand moved to his weapon. "Lieutenant, I think you've been through a traumatic experience. Maybe we should get you checked out by paramedics." "I'm fine, and I asked you a question, Sheriff. Do you know Marcus Kane personally?" The other officers were approaching now. FBI tactical team leader, local deputies. Morrison smiled, putting his hand away from his weapon, going for reasonable instead of threatening. "Of course I know him. Small county. I know most of the criminals. That doesn't mean—" "Dispatch, this is Lieutenant Bennett, Navy Special Warfare," Arya spoke into her comm unit, bypassing Morrison completely. "I need FBI supervision at this crime scene immediately. I have reason to believe local law enforcement may be compromised." Morrison's face went hard. "You need to be very careful about accusations like that, Lieutenant." "I'm always careful, Sheriff. It's what keeps me alive." Arya looked at Rex, who was watching Morrison with the same focused intensity he'd shown Kane. The dog knew. Animals always knew. The FDI tactical team leader, a woman named Agent Lisa Chen, stepped forward. "Lieutenant Bennett, I'm Agent Chen. What's the situation?" "The situation is, we have 11 hostages at Rockford Mine who need immediate rescue. A suspect in custody who claims to be part of a larger network protected by law enforcement, and a local sheriff who's acting very interested in controlling information flow." Arya met Chen's eyes directly. "I need FBI to take primary custody of the suspect and all evidence. Local PD should not have access until we can verify who's compromised." Chen looked at Morrison, whose friendly face had transformed into something cold and calculating. "That's insulting, Lieutenant," Morrison said. "I've been serving this county for 20 years. "And how many missing women have there been in those 20 years, Sheriff?" Arya asked. How many investigations that went nowhere? How many times did Marcus Kane slip through your fingers? Morrison's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. No, you made the mistake. Arya turned to Chen. Agent, I'm formally requesting FBI take command of this scene and this investigation. Chen nodded. Granted. Sheriff Morrison, I'll need you and your deputies to step back while we secure the evidence. This is my county, and this is a federal case involving human trafficking and possible law enforcement corruption. Chen's voice was steel. Step back, Sheriff. Now. For a moment, Arya thought Morrison might actually pull his weapon. She saw his hand twitch toward it, saw the calculation in his eyes about whether he could talk his way out or needed to fight his way out. Then he smiled. Of course, Agent. Happy to cooperate with federal authorities. But as he stepped back, he looked at Arya with eyes that promised this wasn't over. Kane was loaded into an ambulance under FBI guard. Arya gave her initial statement to Agent Chen, while Rex stayed protectively close, refusing to leave her side even when offered food and rest. Lieutenant, you did good work tonight, Chen said. But if Kane and Morrison are telling the truth, if there are corrupt officers protecting this network, then you just made yourself a target. I've been a target before. Not like this. These people have resources, connections, and no reason to let you live if you're threatening their operation. Chen looked at the recording device Arya had handed over. This evidence could bring down a network that's been operating for years. How many people do you think will want to silence you before you can testify? Arya hadn't thought about that. She'd been so focused on the mission, on rescuing the hostages, that she hadn't considered the aftermath. I can protect myself. Can you protect yourself against people with badges and guns who know where you live, where you work, who you care about? Chen shook her head. We need to put you in protective custody until we sort out who's involved. No, I need to be at Rockford Mine when they rescue those women. I'm the one who got Kane to confess the location. I'm the one who... You're the one who needs to stay alive long enough to testify. Chen put a hand on Arya's shoulder. Lieutenant, you did the hard part. You caught Kane, you got the confession, you exposed the network. Now let us do our job and protect you while we finish what you started. Arya wanted to argue, wanted to be there when they freed those 11 women, wanted to see it through to the end. But she looked at Rex, at the loyal dog who'd tracked her through a blizzard and saved her life, and thought about what would happen to him if something happened to her. All right, she said finally. But I want updates. Every hour, and the moment those women are safe, I want to know. Deal. Chen radioed for a secure transport. We'll move you to a safe house, get you medical attention, and start building a case. With your evidence and Kane's testimony, we can... Agent Chen? An FBI officer approached, his face grim. We just got word from the team heading to Rockford Mine. What is it? The mine's empty. No shipping containers, no hostages, no evidence anyone was ever there. Arya felt her stomach drop. That's impossible. Kane gave us the exact location, the security code. He gave us exactly what someone wanted him to give us, Chen said quietly, understanding flooding her face. The confession was too easy, the details too specific. Kane wanted to be caught and wanted to tell you about Rockford Mine. Why would he want that unless... Arya's blood went cold. Unless he was setting a trap, drawing resources away from the real location, or warning his network to move the hostages before we could find them. Chen grabbed her radio. All units, the Rockford location was a decoy. We need to reanalyze Kane's movements, find out where he really... The explosion lit up the night sky. 3 miles away, toward downtown Silver Ridge, A fireball climbed into the falling snow. "What the hell was that?" someone shouted. Chen's radio crackled with frantic reports. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. The sheriff's station just exploded. Building is gone. Multiple casualties." Morrison. Sheriff Morrison had left the scene 10 minutes ago, saying he needed to coordinate with his deputies. He'd gone back to the station and destroyed the evidence. And possibly anyone who might have talked. Agent Chen was already running toward her vehicle, barking orders into her radio. "All units converge on Sheriff Station. Search and rescue. Possible survivors." Arya grabbed her arm. "He's destroying evidence." Morrison knew exactly what was in that building. Files, records, anything that could connect him to the trafficking network. "Then we get what's left before he can destroy more." Chen looked at Arya, then at Rex. "You're coming with me. If Morrison's willing to blow up his own station, he's willing to kill anyone who gets in his way. I'm not letting you out of my sight." They drove through the blizzard toward the explosion, emergency vehicles screaming past in both directions. When they arrived, the sheriff's station was rubble, collapsed walls, twisted metal, fires still burning despite the falling snow. Firefighters were pulling people from the wreckage. A young deputy, maybe 25, stumbled out coughing. "Sheriff Morrison, he was in his office. He told us all to evacuate, said there was a gas leak, then—" The building exploded. The deputy couldn't finish, dissolving into tears. "How many people were inside?" Chen asked. "I don't know. Maybe 5. The sheriff was still in there when it went up." Arya watched rescue teams searching through debris, but something felt wrong. He wouldn't have died in his own explosion. That's not how this works. "What do you mean? Morrison ordered everyone out, stayed inside himself? He's either dead, which I don't believe, or he used the explosion as cover to disappear." Arya turned to Rex. "Track him. Find Morrison's scent." The German shepherd immediately went to work, nose to the ground, circling the perimeter of the destroyed building. He stopped at a rear exit point, where fire was weakest, barked once, then took off running into the darkness beyond. "He's got something." Arya ran after Rex, Chen right behind her. They followed the dog through snow and woods, Rex moving with purpose, tracking something human through terrain that would have lost any human tracker. 200 yards from the station, they found it. Fresh tire tracks, a vehicle that had been hidden, waiting. Morrison had planned his escape before setting the charges. "He's gone," Chen said bitterly. "Could be anywhere by now." "No." Arya studied the tracks, the direction, the pattern. "He's going to the real hostage location. If Kane's confession was a decoy, then Morrison needs to move those women before we figure out where they actually are." "And how do we figure that out? Kane lied. Rockford Mine was empty." "Kane told us one truth, wrapped in lies." Arya pulled up a map on her phone. "He said the women are in shipping containers in an abandoned mining operation. That part's probably true. It's the location that was false. So where else are there abandoned mines in this region?" Chen accessed FBI databases on her tablet. "Dozens. Colorado has hundreds of old mining operations." "Narrow it by logistics. Kane said he's just a recruiter. Someone else handles the containers. That means heavy equipment access, roads that can support semi-trucks, somewhere remote enough for privacy, but accessible enough for regular transport. That's still a lot of locations." Arya thought about Kane's words, his patterns, his mistakes. "He drops them off. He said, 'I just dropped them off.' That means he's been to the location multiple times, recent enough to know operational details like temperature control and security codes. So we check his GPS, his phone records, which were in the sheriff's station when it exploded." Arya felt frustration rising. Morrison destroyed everything that could track Kane's movements. Rex barked urgently, still focused on Morrison's trail. "Or we follow Morrison," Arya said. "He's going to wherever those women are. Rex can track him." "Lieutenant, Morrison has a vehicle head start. We're in a blizzard, and tracking him could take hours we don't have." Chen looked at her seriously. "I know you want to save those women, but we need to be smart about this." Being smart got 11 women kidnapped in a trafficking network operating for 3 years. Arya's voice rose with frustration she'd been holding back. Being smart and following protocol and waiting for proper authorization, that's what these people count on. They count on us following rules while they break every single one. "So what do you suggest? We chase Morrison through a blizzard with no backup, no plan, into a potential ambush where he'll have armed support?" "Yes," Arya said simply. "Because that's what SEALs do. We adapt and overcome. And right now, those women are running out of time." Chen studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling for backup. Tactical team, air support once weather clears, full bureau resources." "That'll take hours." "Then we use those hours to follow your dog and pray he can track Morrison before the trail goes cold." Chen met Arya's eyes. "But I'm not letting you go in alone. We do this together or not at all." They returned to Chen's vehicle, Rex in the back seat, still focused on Morrison's scent, even through the closed doors. Chen drove slowly, following the tire tracks until they merged with a county road, then relying on Rex's increasingly agitated barking to guide their direction. 20 minutes into the pursuit, Arya's phone rang. Unknown number. "Don't answer it," Chen said immediately. But Arya's instinct said otherwise. She answered, putting it on speaker. "Lieutenant Bennett." Sheriff Morrison's voice, calm and friendly, like they were discussing weather. "I heard you're looking for me." "Where are you, Morrison?" "Somewhere you'll never find me. But I wanted to give you a message before I disappear. Call off your investigation." "That's not happening." "Then a lot of people are going to die, starting with those 11 women you're so desperate to save." His voice turned cold. "You exposed our network. You got Kane arrested. You made this personal. So now I'm making it personal too. Those women? They're locked in shipping containers with 48 hours of air supply. The timer started when you arrested Kane. You've got maybe 30 hours left before they suffocate." Arya felt ice flood her veins. "You're bluffing." "Am I? You want to gamble their lives on that assumption?" Morrison laughed. "Here's the deal, Lieutenant. You drop the investigation, destroy that recording, and convince the FBI that Kane acted alone. Do that, and I'll tell you where the women are. Refuse, and they die slowly while you spend 30 hours searching hundreds of abandoned mines." Chen grabbed Arya's arm, mouthed, "Keep him talking." "Why should I believe you'll keep your word?" Arya asked. "Because dead hostages have no value. I'm a businessman, not a monster. Let me walk away. Let the network continue operating, and everyone lives. Try to play hero, and you'll have 11 deaths on your conscience. Your choice, Lieutenant." The line went dead. Arya stared at her phone, mind racing. "He's serious. He actually locked them in containers with limited air. Or he's manipulating you to back off the investigation." But Chen's voice lacked conviction. "We don't negotiate with traffickers, Lieutenant." "Even when lives are at stake?" "Especially then, because if we give in now, he'll keep using hostages as leverage. The network will keep operating. More women will be taken." Arya knew Chen was right, tactically. But tactically right didn't help 11 women suffocating in darkness. "Rex can find them," she said. "Morrison's traveling too fast to cover his tracks perfectly in this snow. And once we know where he's going—" Her phone rang again. This time a different number. Chen's database showed it was registered to Leadville PD. Chen answered this time. Agent Chen, FBI.
Agent, this is Deputy Travis Cole, Leadville PD. We just got a strange call. Anonymous tip about suspicious activity at the old Snowcrest mine, about 15 miles north of Leadville. Caller said they saw semi-trucks and shipping containers being moved there in the middle of a blizzard. Seemed weird enough to pass along. Chen looked at Arya. Anonymous tip right after Morrison's threat? It's a trap. Or it's someone in his network with a conscience, trying to help without exposing themselves. Arya made a decision. We go. Even if it's a trap, it's our only lead. Chen radioed for backup, coordinating with FBI tactical teams to converge on Snowcrest Mine. But the weather was worsening, roads becoming impassable. Air support was grounded. The backup that was available was hours away. We should wait, Chen said, but her eyes said she knew they wouldn't. Those women have 30 hours of air left, minus the 20 minutes Morrison wasted. We don't have time to wait. Arya opened the vehicle door. Rex and I are going. You can come with us, or explain to your superiors why you let women suffocate while following protocol. Chen stared at her, then grabbed her tactical vest and weapon. I'm going to regret this. Probably, but you'll regret not going more. They drove toward Snowcrest Mine, Rex guiding them, his instincts combining with GPS coordinates to navigate through the storm. The mine was remote, accessible only by a deteriorating mountain road that barely qualified as a path. As they approached, Chen killed the headlights, using night vision to navigate the final half-mile. Through the snow, they saw it, the old mine entrance, partially collapsed but clearly reinforced with new steel supports. And parked outside, 3 semi-trucks, 4 pickup trucks, and at least a dozen armed men. That's not a mining operation, Chen said. That's a military operation. Arya counted the guards, assessed their positions, calculated impossible odds. 2 women and 1 dog against 12 armed men in a fortified position. I've had worse odds, she said. When? Hell Week, day 5. I was hypothermic, exhausted, hallucinating. Instructor said I'd never make it. Arya checked her weapon. I made it because I refused to consider failure as an option. Same applies here. Chen looked at her like she was insane. You're 22 years old, and you think you're invincible. I'm 22 years old, and I know I'm expendable. Those women aren't. Arya opened her door quietly. You can wait here for backup, or help me. But I'm going in. Rex was already out, moving silently through snow toward the mine entrance, using terrain and darkness for cover the way he'd been trained. Chen cursed softly, then followed. For the record, this is the worst tactical decision I've ever supported. Noted. They moved closer, using the blizzard as cover, getting within 100 yards of the mine entrance. That's when Arya saw them through gaps in the falling snow. Shipping containers, 6 of them, being loaded onto trucks by the armed men. They were moving the women right now. Morrison had used his threat call to stall while his network evacuated the hostages. We're too late, Chen whispered. They're already loading. Then we stop them before they leave. Arya's hand was on Rex's collar, holding him back from attacking. Chen, you're FBI. Can you order them to stand down? They're not going to. Arya stepped into the open, hands raised, making herself visible to the armed men. Federal officer! Everyone drop your weapons! 12 guns swung toward her. Chen grabbed Arya's arm, trying to pull her back into cover. What are you doing? Buying time. Arya kept her voice loud, commanding. I'm Lieutenant Arya Bennett,
U.S. Navy. This operation is surrounded. FBI tactical teams are en route. Surrender now and you'll live to see a trial." One of the men laughed. "You're alone, girl, and you just made the last mistake of your life." They opened fire. Arya dove behind a boulder as bullets sparked off stone and ice. Chen returned fire, forcing the gunman to take cover. Rex ran, not at the men, but toward the shipping containers, his training screaming at him to find the people trapped inside. "Rex, no!" Arya couldn't let her canine partner run into a crossfire. But Rex wasn't listening. He'd caught the scent of trapped humans, and his entire purpose, everything he'd been trained for, demanded he reach them. One of the gunmen saw Rex, raised his weapon to shoot the dog. Arya shot him first. Clean shot, leg, disabling, but not fatal. The fight was on. 2 federal agents and 1 German shepherd against a trafficking network that had too much to lose to surrender. And somewhere in those shipping containers, 11 women were running out of air. The firefight was chaos. Bullets sparking off metal containers, men shouting orders, Rex weaving through the crossfire with terrifying speed. Arya moved like she'd been trained, using cover effectively, making every shot count because she only had 2 magazines and 12 targets. Chen was beside her, firing with FBI precision. Her shots aimed to disable, not kill. "We can't hold them off forever. Where's our backup?" 20 minutes out." Arya shot at a man trying to flank them, hit him in the shoulder, drove him back to cover. "We just need to keep them from leaving with those containers." "How? They've got numbers and firepower." Arya saw Rex reach the first shipping container, the dog scratching frantically at the sealed door, barking urgently. He could smell the women inside, could sense their terror, their desperation. "Rex is buying us time." Arya reloaded, her hands moving automatically through muscle memory. "They won't leave without killing them first, and that means they're staying in our line of fire." One of the gunmen made the mistake of breaking cover to get a clear shot at Rex. Arya dropped him with a shot to his leg. Another tried the same thing. Chen got him. "This is insane!" Chen was bleeding from a graze across her arm, but still fighting. "Even if we win this firefight, how do we open those containers? They're locked with codes we don't have." "Then we make them give us the codes." Arya spotted him. The leader of the group, older than the others, wearing a tactical vest that screamed former military. "Cover me." She ran before Chen could stop her, using the trucks for cover, moving toward the man who was barking orders. He saw her coming, raised his weapon, but Arya was faster. She hit him low, drove him into the snow, had her knife at his throat before he could recover. "Code to open the containers! Now!" He laughed, blood in his teeth. "You'll never get them open in time. Air supply runs out in 6 hours. Even if you had the codes, you'd have to manually unlock each container, and we disabled the quick release mechanisms." "Then you're going to help us." Arya pressed the knife harder. "Or you're going to die, knowing those women suffocated while you were too proud to save them." "They're already dead, girl. Just don't know it yet." Arya heard it then, pounding from inside the nearest container. Fists hitting metal, desperate, weakening. The women were fighting to escape, using their last reserves of strength. Rex heard it too. He redoubled his efforts, clawing at the container door with such intensity his paws were bleeding. "Let them out," Arya said, her voice deadly calm. "Right now, or I swear to God I'll make you suffer in ways your nightmares haven't imagined." The man studied her face and saw something that made him reconsider. All right. The code is 83269. But you need to understand, Morrison's the one who locked them in. I'm just security. You're complicit, which makes you guilty." Arya zip-tied him, then ran to the container. "Chen, I've got the code." Chen was still providing cover fire, keeping the other gunmen pinned. "Do it! Open them!" Arya punched in the code. 83269. Nothing happened. She tried again, hands shaking from cold and adrenaline. Still nothing. "He lied!" Chen shouted. "He gave you a fake code!" The pounding inside the container was getting weaker. Arya could hear voices now, women's voices, begging for help, for air, for someone to save them. "No," Arya said, rage and determination flooding through her. "He didn't lie. The code's right, but the mechanism is damaged." She looked at the container's locking system. Industrial grade, designed to withstand everything. Except a shaped charge. "Chen, I need your breaching explosives." "Are you insane? You'll kill everyone inside." "The lock is external." Small charge, precise placement, just enough to blow the mechanism without damaging the container. Arya was already moving to Chen's tactical pack, pulling out the small breaching charges FBI carried for hostage situations. "Arya, if you miscalculate by even a fraction, then I kill them. But if I do nothing, they definitely die." Arya placed the charge carefully, her SEAL training guiding her hands. "Rex, back! Everyone back!" The German shepherd reluctantly obeyed, watching with anxious eyes as Arya set the timer. 3 seconds. "Fire in the hole!" She ran, dove behind cover. The explosion rang out. Controlled. Precise. Exactly what she'd calculated. When the smoke cleared, the container door hung open, and inside, barely conscious, were 4 women. Arya ran to them, helping them out, their skin pale from oxygen deprivation, their eyes shocked and disbelieving. "You're safe. You're safe now. I'm Federal Agent. We've got you." One woman collapsed into her arms, sobbing.
"You came. We thought no one was coming. We thought we'd die."
"Not today," Arya said fiercely. "Not on my watch." Chen had stopped firing, was staring at the freed women with something like awe. "You actually did it." 4 down, 7 to go. Arya turned back to the man she'd captured. "Where are the other women? These containers are empty." He smiled through bloody teeth. "I told you. Morrison moved them. These 4? They're bait. To waste your time while the real shipment crosses into Mexico." Arya felt her world tilt. "You're lying." "Am I? Check the containers. Go ahead." Chen and 2 FBI agents who'd just arrived did exactly that, forcing open the remaining containers with the codes they'd extracted. Empty. All of them empty, except the one that had held 4 women. "Where are the other 7? Chen demanded, her weapon in the man's face. "Gone. Morrison moved them 6 hours ago when he realized Kane was compromised." "These 4? He nodded at the survivors. "They're the witnesses he planned to have you find. Proof you stopped the operation. Meanwhile, the real merchandise is already across the border." Arya's hands balled into fists. They'd been played. Morrison had predicted their response, planted the tip, let them win while the real victims slipped away. One of the freed women grabbed Arya's arm weakly. "Wait, you're looking for 7 more women?" "Yes. Do you know where they are?" "I don't know where they are now, but I know who one of them is." The woman's voice was hoarse from screaming. "FBI agent Laura Martinez. She was undercover, infiltrated the trafficking network 3 months ago. Morrison found out, took her with the others. She's been trying to gather evidence from inside." Chen's face went white. "Laura Martinez is one of my agents. She went dark 6 weeks ago. We thought she was dead." "She's not dead. She's still gathering intelligence."
She told us Morrison is part of something bigger, that there are federal agents and local police all along the I-70 corridor protecting the network. The woman coughed, struggled to breathe.
"She said if anything happened to her,
to tell FBI to check Marcus Kane's phone. He kept records, insurance against Morrison betraying him. Aria's mind raced. Kane's phone was in evidence at the sheriff's station, which Morrison blew up, Chen said bitterly. But evidence is logged digitally. Before anything physical arrives, it's photographed, documented, uploaded to databases. Aria pulled out her phone, started accessing Navy intelligence systems she technically shouldn't have access to. If Kane's phone was logged before the explosion, the data might still exist. Chen was already on her phone, too, calling FBI Digital Forensics. "This is Agent Chen. I need immediate retrieval of all evidence logged from Silver Ridge Sheriff Station in the last 24 hours. Priority code, Alpha Red." While they worked, paramedics arrived to treat the freed women. Rex stayed close to them, his protective instincts making him their unofficial guardian. One woman, barely 18, reached out to pet him with shaking hands.
"He found us," she whispered. "We could hear him barking, scratching at the door. We knew someone was trying to help."
Aria knelt beside her. "What's your name?"
"Sophia. Sophia Reyes. I was taken 3 weeks ago from a truck stop in Utah. I thought I was going to die in that container."
"You didn't die. You fought. You survived. And now you're going to help us stop the people who did this to you." Sophia's eyes filled with tears.
"I can't testify. I'm terrified. What if they come after my family?"
"Then we protect your family. We protect you. That's what we do." Aria took Sophia's hand.
"But Sophia, I need you to think.
In the 3 weeks you were held, did you hear anything? See anything? Anything that might help us find the other 7 women?" Sophia thought hard, her face scrunching with concentration. "There was a place. Morrison talked about it once when he thought we couldn't hear. Called it the Depot. Said it was their emergency facility, where they take shipments when operations get compromised. It's somewhere cold, somewhere snow covers tracks. He said even if law enforcement found it, they'd never be able to prove it was connected to the network." "The Depot," Chen repeated, typing rapidly. "I'm running it through databases now, checking property records, business licenses, anything that matches." Aria's phone pinged. Maybe intelligence had located Kane's phone data, backed up automatically when evidence was logged. She opened the files, found what she needed. Text messages between Kane and Morrison. Dozens of them. And in the most recent, sent just before Kane tried to kill Aria, he'd written, "Federal seal onto us. Moving all packages to Depot. Clear?" Morrison had responded, "Depot ready. Liquidate the seal if possible. She's too dangerous to leave alive." Aria showed Chen the messages.
"They planned to kill me from the start. This whole operation tonight, the gas station, the ambush, Kane's confession. It was all designed to eliminate me and buy time to move the real hostages."
"But why target you specifically? You're Navy, not FBI. You weren't even investigating this case until tonight."
"Because I was effective. Young, female, underestimated. I got Kane to incriminate himself in record time. Morrison saw me as a threat to the entire network."
Aria scrolled through more messages.
"And here, Kane sent Morrison our surveillance schedules, our communication protocols, our backup timing. He knew exactly how to set a trap."
Chen's phone rang. "Agent Chen?" She listened, her face growing darker. "When? How many?" She hung up, looked at Aria with grim expression. "FBI backup, we called? 3 of the responding units never made it. Ambushed en route. Morrison has people everywhere, Aria. He's coordinating this like a military operation." "Then we respond like military." Aria pulled up tactical maps. "Chen, Morrison said somewhere cold, somewhere snow covers tracks.
That's most of Colorado right now. But combined with depot and the need for secrecy, we're looking for somewhere industrial, remote, with plausible deniability. Old military base? Chen suggested. Colorado has dozens. Too traceable. Military bases have records, oversight. Arya thought about Morrison's profile. 20 years law enforcement, former Army, smart and paranoid. He'd want somewhere he could legitimately explain being, somewhere local law enforcement has reason to patrol. Civil defense facility, Chen said suddenly. During Cold War, Colorado built dozens of emergency bunkers for civil defense. Most were decommissioned. Some were sold to private companies. They're remote, underground, climate-controlled. Perfect for holding hostages. Arya was already searching. How many civil defense bunkers are in this region? 7 that I know of, but only one is accessible in this weather. Chen pulled up a map. Redstone Depot, old civil defense bunker 30 miles north. Officially owned by a private security company that does business with law enforcement, Arya finished. Morrison's probably been using it for years. FBI can have a team there in 2 hours. We don't have 2 hours. Laura Martinez and 6 other women are there right now, and Morrison knows we're getting close. Arya stood up, grabbed her gear. We go now. We end this now. Arya, going in without backup is suicide. Morrison will have armed guards, defensive positions, probably explosive charges to destroy evidence. Then we better be smarter than him. Arya looked at Rex, at the faithful canine who'd saved her life and found the hostages. Rex and I have handled worse. Chen stared at her for a long moment, then grabbed her own gear. You're 22 years old and absolutely insane. And you're FBI and about to follow me anyway. Damn right I am. Chen radioed for whatever backup could reach them, because someone has to make sure you survive long enough to testify about this disaster. As they headed for Redstone Depot, Arya felt the weight of what they were about to do. 2 women and 1 dog against a fortified position holding 7 hostages. The odds were impossible. But she'd made impossible work before, and 7 women were counting on her to do it again. Redstone Depot looked abandoned from the outside. Rusted fence, overgrown entrance, warning signs about structural instability. But Arya saw fresh tire tracks in the snow, saw footprints too regular to be from random trespassers, saw the way the abandoned facility had working exterior lights. He's here, Chen said, killing the vehicle lights a quarter mile out. Question is, how many men he brought with him? Arya studied the facility through night vision. Thermal imaging shows 8 heat signatures in the main structure. 7 stationary, the hostages. 1 moving between them, Morrison. He's alone? Or his men are in positions we can't see from here? Arya handed the night vision to Chen. Either way, we go in quiet. Rex leads, finds the hostages, we extract them while Morrison's distracted. And if Morrison sees us first? Then we adapt. Arya checked her weapon. 1 magazine left after the firefight at Snowcrest. Chen, I need you to understand something. If it comes down to saving those women or capturing Morrison, we save the women. Justice can wait. Those lives can't. Chen looked at her with newfound respect. You really are only 22, aren't you? Because only someone that young would be this idealistic about sacrifice. It's not idealism, it's math. 7 lives matter more than 1 arrest. Arya opened her door quietly. Ready? They moved through the snow, with Rex leading, the German shepherd's nose guiding them to a ventilation shaft that led underground. The shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for a human, but Arya had crawled through worse during SEAL training. I'll go first, she whispered. Rex follows.
Chen, you provide overwatch, and be ready to extract hostages when we bring them up.
Arya, if something happens down there,
Then you complete the mission. Save those women. That's all that matters.
Arya dropped into the shaft before Chen could argue, Rex right behind her. The crawl through the ventilation system was claustrophobic, freezing, and exactly the kind of challenge that had almost broken her in Hell Week. But she'd survived that. She'd survived this. The shaft opened into what looked like an old civil defense briefing room, now converted into a makeshift prison. And there, handcuffed to chairs, were 7 women in various states of injury and exhaustion. One of them looked up as Arya dropped from the vent. Mid-30s, FBI tactical gear torn and dirty, but her eyes sharp and alert.
Laura Martinez?
Arya whispered. The woman's eyes widened.
Who are you? Lieutenant Arya Bennett, Navy SEALs. Agent Chen sent me.
Arya was already working on the handcuffs with a lockpick from her tactical vest.
We're getting you out. Morrison knows you're coming, Laura said urgently. He's been monitoring FBI channels. He said he's going to use us as leverage, force you to drop the investigation, or he starts killing hostages.
Not happening. Arya freed Laura, moved to the next woman.
Can you walk? I can run if it means getting out of here. Laura grabbed Arya's arm.
But listen, Morrison's not the top of the network. He answers to someone higher up, someone in federal law enforcement with serious power. He kept saying, the director will handle this, when he thought we couldn't hear. Director of what? I don't know, but whoever it is, they've been protecting this trafficking network for years. They're the reason investigations keep getting shut down, why evidence disappears, why... The door burst open. Morrison stood there with a weapon aimed directly at Arya. Impressive, he said calmly. You actually made it this far. But did you really think I wouldn't have sensors in the ventilation system? Arya's hand was on her weapon, but she couldn't draw fast enough, not with 7 hostages in the line of fire. Don't even think about it, Lieutenant. I'm actually a good shot, unlike Kane. I won't miss. Morrison smiled. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Agent Chen. Tell her you failed. Tell her to stand down. Then you and I are going to have a conversation about what happens to people who threaten networks they don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're a corrupt sheriff trafficking women for profit. I'm a businessman providing a service to people willing to pay. And I'm part of an organization that's been operating since before you were born. Morrison's voice turned cold. You want to know why you can't stop us? Because we're everywhere. Local police, state police, FBI, even your precious Navy. We protect each other. We destroy evidence. We eliminate threats. Like me? Like you. Young, capable, dangerous. The kind of agent who doesn't know when to quit, who doesn't understand that some battles can't be won. He gestured with his weapon. Make the call. Tell Chen to stand down, or I start shooting hostages, starting with Agent Martinez. Arya looked at Laura, at the 6 other women watching her with desperate hope. She thought about Sophia and the other survivors at Snowcrest Mine. She thought about Emma Miller asking, "Can you find my dad?" And the trust in her eyes when Connor said, "Yes." "No," Arya said. Morrison blinked. "What?" "I said no. I'm not calling Chen. I'm not letting you hurt these women, and I'm definitely not letting you walk away." "You don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Arya's hand moved to her belt, to the small device she'd been carrying since the gas station. "Chen, now!" The explosion wasn't large, just a small breaching charge Chen had placed on the facility's main power junction based on Arya's signal. but it was enough to plunge the bunker into darkness. Morrison fired blind. Arya dove, rolled, came up with her weapon drawn. Rex attacked from the shadows, hitting Morrison before he could adjust to the darkness. The weapon went flying. Arya was on Morrison in seconds, using techniques she drilled thousands of times, moving with precision, even in pitch black. Within seconds, Morrison was disarmed, restrained, and Rex's teeth were at his throat.
"Laura!" Arya called. "Get these women up to the ventilation shaft. Chen's waiting."
Laura was already moving, organizing the other hostages, getting them towards safety despite her own injuries. Arya stayed with Morrison and Rex, weapon-trained on the corrupt sheriff.
"You think this changes anything?" Morrison spat blood. "You think arresting me stops the network? There are dozens more like me. Hundreds. The organization will keep operating."
"Maybe, but you won't." Arya heard sirens approaching. Real backup this time, coordinated by Chen. "And every person we arrest is one less trafficker destroying lives." Morrison started laughing.
"You have no idea what you've walked into, little girl."
The director is already under investigation," a new voice said from the doorway. Captain Rodriguez, Arya's commanding officer, entered with a full FBI tactical team. "We've been building a case for 6 months. Agent Martinez's undercover work, combined with Lieutenant Bennett's operation tonight, gave us everything we needed." Arya stared. "Ma'am, did you really think I'd send a 22-year-old SEAL on a solo op without backup?" Rodriguez smiled. "I've been coordinating with FBI this entire time. Your unauthorized operation? Completely authorized. We needed someone young and underestimated to get close to Kane and Morrison. Someone they wouldn't see as a threat until it was too late." "I was bait," Arya said, understanding flooding through her. "You were an operator doing exactly what SEALs do, adapting and overcoming impossible odds." Rodriguez looked at Morrison. "And this corrupt sheriff just confessed to being part of a federal trafficking network, while Lieutenant Bennett recorded every word." Arya touched her tactical vest, felt the small recording device she'd activated the moment Morrison started monologuing. Everything he'd said about the organization, about federal protection, about operating for years, all recorded. Morrison's face went white. "You set me up." "No, you set yourself up by underestimating a woman because of her age and gender." Arya stood, looked down at him with something between pity and disgust. "You thought 22 and female meant weak, meant easy to manipulate. You were wrong." FBI agents hauled Morrison away. Laura Martinez, now free, walked over to Arya with newfound respect. "You saved us. Not just tonight, but your entire operation. Getting Kane's confession, exposing Morrison, pushing the investigation when everyone said to wait. You saved lives that would have been lost if you'd followed protocol." "I just did my job." "You did more than that." Laura looked at Rex, who was sitting calmly beside Arya despite his injuries. "Both of you did. This dog tracked you through a blizzard, attacked a man twice his size, found hostages in the dark. He's a hero." "He's my partner," Arya said, scratching behind Rex's ears. "We take care of each other." Over the following weeks, the investigation exploded beyond anything Arya had imagined. Morrison's recordings and Kane's phone data led to arrests across 5 states. 43 individuals, including 3 FBI agents, 7 sheriffs, 12 deputies, and multiple military contractors. The director, Morrison mentioned, turned out to be a retired DEA administrator who'd been running the network for over a decade. All 11 rescued women survived. Sophia Reyes, the 18-year-old from Snowcrest, started a survivor advocacy program helping other trafficking victims. Laura Martinez received a commendation for her undercover work. The 4 women Rex had helped rescue sent him a care package of dog treats and a handmade medal that said,
Our hero. 3 months later, Arya stood in a rehabilitation center where trafficking survivors were rebuilding their lives. She'd been asked to speak, but she didn't want to talk about the operation, the firefights, the danger. She wanted to talk about something more important. 3 months ago, Arya said to the assembled survivors, advocates, and law enforcement, a violent criminal tried to burn me alive. He thought I was weak because I'm young, because I'm female, because I look like someone who could be overpowered. She paused, looking at the faces watching her. Women who'd been underestimated, dismissed, victimized by people who thought they were powerless. He was wrong, but not because I'm stronger than him physically, not because I have better weapons or training. Arya's voice was firm, clear. He was wrong because strength isn't about size or gender or age. Strength is about refusing to give up when everything says you should. It's about fighting for others when you're terrified. It's about trusting your instincts when everyone dismisses you. Sophia stood up from the audience. You saved us because you didn't quit. Even when they said you were too young, too inexperienced, you kept fighting. I kept fighting because you were worth fighting for, because every person in this room is worth fighting for. Arya looked at Rex, sitting calmly beside her. And I had help. This dog didn't quit either. When I was in danger, he tracked me through conditions that should have been impossible. When hostages needed rescue, he found them in the dark. Loyalty doesn't care about species. Courage doesn't care about size. Laura Martinez approached the podium. Lieutenant Bennett's operation led to the largest trafficking network takedown in Colorado history. 43 arrests, 11 women rescued, and it started because one SEAL refused to accept that evil could win. Chen, now leading a federal task force on trafficking, added, "But Arya's right about one thing. This isn't a story about her being exceptional. It's a story about what happens when we stop underestimating people. When we listen to survivors instead of dismissing them. When we take young women seriously instead of telling them they don't have enough experience." Arya's commanding officer, Captain Rodriguez, had the final word. The Navy SEALs have a saying, "The only easy day was yesterday." Lieutenant Bennett proved something important. Being young doesn't mean being incapable. Being female doesn't mean being weak. And being underestimated can actually be an advantage, because enemies never see you coming until it's too late. After the ceremony, Arya walked outside with Rex, needing air and quiet after the crowd. Sophia found her there, the young survivor looking healthier now, stronger.
Can I ask you something? Sophia said nervously. Anything. That night when you opened the container and I was barely conscious, you said, "Not today, not on my watch." What did you mean? Arya thought about that moment, about 4 dying women and impossible odds, and the absolute certainty that she would save them, or die trying. I meant that evil doesn't win when someone's willing to fight it. That suffering doesn't continue when someone says, "Enough." That your life mattered enough for me to risk mine. She looked at Sophia directly. And I meant that you deserve to live. Not just survive, but really live. Free and safe and strong. Sophia started crying. I want to be strong like you. You already are. You survived. You testified. You're helping others heal. That's not weakness, Sophia. That's warrior-level strength. But I'm scared all the time. I have nightmares. I can't be alone in the dark. So do I, Arya admitted. I have nightmares about the gas station, about almost burning alive, about everything that could have gone wrong. Fear doesn't make you weak. Fear is information. What you do with that fear determines who you are. Rex pushed his nose into Sophia's hand, offering comfort the way only dogs can. She laughed through tears, petting him.
He really is a hero, isn't he?
He really is. And so are you. Every survivor in that room is a hero. Because you're all still here, still fighting, still refusing to let evil define you. Captain Rodriguez approached with news. Lieutenant, we've been contacted by multiple federal agencies. They want to create a task force specifically for trafficking cases. Joint operations between military special forces and law enforcement, focusing on cases where victims are dismissed or investigations stall. They want you to help build it.
Arya looked at Rex, at Sophia, at the rehabilitation center full of survivors who'd been failed by systems that should have protected them. What would this task force do? What you did. Go after traffickers that slip through the cracks. Rescue victims everyone else has given up on. Partner experienced operators with survivors who can provide inside knowledge. Rodriguez smiled. They're calling it Operation Underestimated. Because that's what you were. That's what these survivors are. And that's the weapon we're going to use against people who think powerless means defeated. I'm in, Arya said without hesitation. But on one condition. Rex comes with me. And survivors like Sophia help train the teams. Teach us what really happens. Keep us focused on the people we're saving, instead of just the arrests we're making. Done. Rodriguez extended her hand. Welcome to the hardest mission you've ever volunteered for. As they shook hands, Arya felt the same certainty she'd felt in that gas station parking lot when Kame tried to burn her. Purpose. Clarity. The absolute knowledge that this was exactly where she was supposed to be. Over the next year, Operation Underestimated became the most effective trafficking task force in federal law enforcement. They rescued 127 victims, arrested 89 traffickers, dismantled 5 major networks. And it all started because a 22-year-old SEAL, with a loyal canine partner, refused to accept that being underestimated meant being defeated. On the anniversary of the Christmas Eve operation, Arya returned to the gas station where it all began. The place was different now. Cleaner, safer, with a small memorial plaque honoring the survivors. Rex sat beside her, older now but still alert, still ready, still absolutely loyal. You know what I learned that night? Arya said to her canine partner. That strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about being terrified and fighting anyway. It's about being overpowered and still finding a way to win. It's about someone putting gasoline around you and lighting a match, and you refusing to accept that's how your story ends. Rex leaned against her leg, his way of saying he understood. He agreed. He'd do it all again. The world underestimated us because we don't look dangerous, Arya continued. Young woman and a dog against violent men with weapons and power. They thought we'd be easy to break. They were wrong. Because courage doesn't care about age. Because strength doesn't care about size. Because loyalty doesn't care about species. And because sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones nobody sees coming. The young woman who looks vulnerable but fights like a warrior. And the German shepherd who refuses to let his partner face evil alone. That's the truth Morrison learned too late. The lesson Kane died not understanding. The reality that 43 arrested traffickers never saw coming. Underestimation is the most dangerous mistake anyone can make. And Lieutenant Arya Bennett, with Rex by her side, had turned that mistake into the weapon that brought down an empire of evil. Justice doesn't always come from where you expect it. Sometimes it comes from the snow, with teeth and determination, and the absolute refusal to let darkness win. And that kind of justice changes everything.